Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Monday, the 29th of January. With McShane, we read Esther chapter 6 as thunder threatens in the distance. In chapter 5, Esther had finally got the courage, went to see the king, and when the king welcomed her and said, "What do you want?" she said, "Come to a banquet at my house and bring Haman with you." Haman, the enemy of the Jews, wanting to exterminate them. At the banquet, the king then said, "What do you want now?" And she said, "Come again tomorrow with Haman." Haman went from there in high spirits, thinking, "What a wonderful man I am." He told his friends and family how brilliant he was, how he'd been elevated, how all the good he'd done, and how magnificent he was. And he says, "And I was the only one invited with the king to a banquet at the queen." But as he'd come out of the palace, Mordecai was sitting there, and he had paid no homage to Haman at all, showed him no respect. And so Haman says to his family and friends, "But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate." And so his wife and friends say, "Well, have him executed. Put a big gallows up and ask the king to execute him. Then go off to the banquet." Sounds like a good idea to Haman, so he heads off for the palace. However, that night the king couldn't sleep. He has the records of the kingdom brought out, and as the scribes or whoever is reading it to him, they recount the tale that Mordecai had heard of a plot to assassinate him. Mordecai had reported it, and the plot had been stopped and prevented, and the people executed. And the king stops and says, "Well, what was done for Mordecai because of the service he gave us?" People said, "Nothing." We ought to honor him in some way. Just then Haman comes in, and the king asks him, "What should be done for the man the king wishes to honor?" Now Haman, as all proud people often do, full of himself, thinks it can only be me the king's talking about. And so he invents this wonderful concept of what should be done. He says, "For the man the king delights to honor, let them bring a royal robe the king has worn, on a horse the king has ridden, with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor, and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, 'This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor.'" And one can just imagine Haman in all his pride and arrogance thinking, "Wow, how wonderful that will be. There I am, dressed like that, on the horse. Everyone will look at me and marvel at what a wonderful person I am." Except the king says, "Good idea, do that for Mordecai." So Haman can't do any other. He does exactly what he said for Mordecai, and he goes home distraught. And as he reports to his wife and family what has happened, we're told his advisors and his wife Zeresh said to him, "Well, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin." And there are two things there. The one is the day before, or possibly even that morning, they'd been saying to him, "Have Mordecai executed." Now they, "Oh no, because he's Jewish, you can't stand against him." He just said we need to be careful of the advice we listen to, because there's much fickle advice, people saying what we want to hear until the evidence just is insurmountably against it. So always be careful of who we listen to. And then with Haman, it's a great lesson in humility. Be humble. Don't assume anything. Don't assume that you are worth more than anybody actually gives you, or that when people are speaking, they're speaking about you. Or always be humble. And that's what Jesus said. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who are humble. Never the arrogant. In the Old Testament it says, "For he has shown you what is good and what the Lord requires of you, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Jesus says, be humble. It's far better to take the lowest place and be invited to a higher position than to take a higher position and be told, embarrassingly, to move lower. So be challenged by that thought. Be blessed.